Have you ever read news reports or know of any children who are victims of abuse or needless deaths caused by irresponsible parenting? For people that see news articles and reports on these children, the idea of a license for parenting might sound attractive. Many believe a license could save countless lives of the children that suffer from abuse, neglect, or cruelty because there are many inadequate parents raising infants. Parents would be more respectful of their obligations if they had to earn the privilege of raising a child. There is a load to consider when deciding to require parents to obtain a license for raising a child. Let's talk about some of these aspects, such as arguments for a parent license. What would happen if the license became law? Arguments against the license, and is it infringing on our rights? First, let's look at the arguments that led us to the idea of parenting license. In today's society, we need proactive parents with the frame of mind to teach and educate correctly. Clearly, there are many parents out there who have no business being around kids and don't have the financial, emotional, or intellectual resources to raise them. Has anyone ever wondered why we can't drink until age 21, but we can have babies before we're even old enough to drive? Children don't ask to be born, and many adults don't ask to be parents. Unquestionably, there are extremely responsible and loving parents out there, but there are also people who raise children irresponsibly, which inevitably scars those children for life. Parental licensing attempts to take all risks out of childbearing by eliminating mistakes. If a parenting license were to exist, the law would state that before becoming parents, people would be required to complete high school, pass a certified course on infant development, obtain a license, sign a contract agreeing not to abuse or neglect the children, and take up grade courses through the child's life. The course or test given would be created by experienced and successful parents, teachers, doctors, psychiatrists, etc. An 80% score of the test would be needed to pass, and courses would be mandatory during high school. We need to carefully consider what we teach in these courses, though. 20 years ago, people would have laughed to suggest that using a cane or belt on a child would get them into court. Not anymore. Law enforcement and child protection services are of course there to deal with abuse. This is how things should be. Kids need protection. But do we really need to go to such an extreme in which you need to get a license to be a parent? That brings up the question, can adequate parenting skills be taught? Or more importantly, can inadequate parenting skills be overcome by a simple course in child development? Can we teach someone not to abuse their kids? Or even, can we teach parents to love their kids? Just what would taking a course for license ensure anyway? Just what would it teach? There will always be people who are poor parents regardless of how much guidance you give them. A license would not even ensure that parents would follow the rules. Neglect and abuse could still happen even with a license. For example, a doctor could go through medical school and pass the licensing requirement for practicing medicine in his state, and a few years later could make a crucial mistake that results in a patient's unnecessary death. Therefore, getting a license will not solve the problem. In fact, it will create more problems. A parenting license would infringe against our God-given rights. It would violate the basic human rights to procreate as well as the constitutional law for the pursuit of happiness in a free society. Humans should be able to reproduce freely and naturally without being monitored by the government. Yes, there should be a way to reduce abuse and neglect, but having to qualify for something as natural as procreation is ridiculous. You are never fully prepared to have children, No matter what you do, you can never really be ready for taking care of a human life. In all, having a law that requires parents to acquire a license in order to raise a child is unreasonable. The license violates all humans' God-given rights and should not become a law because of it. There are great parents in this world and terrible parents. Sometimes it's hard to tell which will be which when they are young. A license will not solve the abuse problem some children live with. Only law enforcement and others who step up can help solve this issue. If this license ever becomes law, it would need to be thought through carefully, because spanking a child with a belt or a wooden spoon was great parenting 20 years ago, and now is considered abuse. Clearly, there are parents who should never have children, but to force a license on everyone in the hopes of eradicating a few bad parents is absurd. Therefore, a license may sound attractive when faced with incidences on the news about abuse or neglected children, but even when carried out, the license cannot guarantee it will solve abuse by any means. Thank you for watching. I hope this helps.